All right, confirmation students, this is Pastor Mike. We are going to talk today about the baby born to Abraham and Sarah. Now, if you remember from last week's lesson about Abraham and Sarah, 4,000 years ago, they were really old people. And yet God had still not come through with the baby that God had promised them. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever been impatient waiting for something? Sometimes when you get impatient, you do dumb things. Well, after waiting 11 years, Abraham and Sarah became impatient. And they did a very dumb thing. They decided that they could not wait any longer for a baby. So here's what they did. Sarah had a servant girl named Hagar, who was young and pretty. And so Sarah convinced Abraham to have a baby with Hagar, because of course Hagar was much younger. So Abraham got Hagar pregnant, and she gave birth to a baby boy named Ishmael. But remember, God's promise was that Abraham and Sarah would have a baby together. Ishmael was not the promised baby from God. Now, because of this dumb thing that Abraham and Sarah had done, God could have chosen to ignore the baby Ishmael. But God is a loving God, and God promised to bless Ishmael and make him have a huge family tree. So for now, remember, Ishmael was born to Abraham and Hagar, not Sarah, Hagar. And he was not the promised baby. Another 14 years went by, and the three visitors that we talked about last week came, and they told Abraham and Sarah that they would have a baby together within the next year. Do you remember what Sarah did when she was told that? That's right. She laughed. Sarah laughed because she was 90 years old, and Abraham was 100 years old. And ladies that old don't have babies anymore. And men that old don't father babies anymore. Well, guess what happened 9 months later? Yep, Sarah had a baby. Sarah had the promised miracle baby from God. And because Sarah had laughed, they named their baby the laughing guy. Seriously. In the Hebrew language, the language that Abraham and Sarah spoke, the laughing guy is the name Isaac. And so follow with me here. Here's why all of this matters to us today. As we have learned today, Abraham was the father of two boys, Ishmael and Isaac. In our day, in the year 2020, the descendants of Ishmael are known as the Arab people. Arab people live in places like Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Iran. And their religion is primarily Islam. Anyone who follows the religion of Islam is called a Muslim. Most Muslim people are in the family tree of Ishmael. Now, let's discuss the other boy, Isaac. God also blessed Isaac with a huge family tree. In our day, great numbers of the people who are the descendants of Isaac live in what is called the land of Israel. And these people follow a religion called Judaism. And anybody who follows the religion of Judaism is called a Jew. So most Jewish people are in the family tree of Isaac. Muslims and Jews have almost forever been enemies of each other, but they actually are related. They're very closely related because they both trace their family tree back to Abraham. Got it? So again, Abraham was the father of two boys. First Ishmael, from whom the Arab people came, and Isaac, from whom the Jewish people came. One last thing, in one of the Bible's strangest stories, when Isaac was grown, God tested Abraham's faith by telling him to sacrifice Isaac, his son, with a knife. Thankfully, God stopped Abraham from killing Isaac at the very last minute. But after that, God knew that Abraham would trust God no matter what, that Abraham had great faith in God. That's why Abraham is known as the father of our faith. And that's what you need to know for this week.